So the next step in this process is to come in and remove the 4 screws that hold this recoil assembly in place. And you can see it's really fast if you use a little power drill. You don't always have to do that. You can also use the wrench that comes with it. But once you have all the screws removed, you can just lift that assembly off, and there's a dust shield on the inside, so you can see that. Be careful, that dust shield will come out as well, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Now at this point you may be in here for several reasons, but probably the 2 most common reasons are either this assembly has gotten filthy, or it got wet and it got a buildup of the slurry and water and it's just hanging up. If that's the case, usually you'll notice that when you go to pull it in, the rope, it'll only recoil so far and it'll stop and stay like that. The one thing you don't want to do is you don't want to go in here and tighten this up. Now I'll explain why as we go. So just quickly, what we're going to do to release the tension on this, you can see this is still in fairly good shape, holds it fairly tight. So what we'll do to release the tension is we'll pull the rope all the way out, and then what we will do is we will take the rope and set it up in that little notch and then just let it spin and release the tension, and then take the rope, get it between your thumb and your index finger and kind of rotate it between your thumb and index finger, and all we're trying to do is just take those little knots out. That's all we're trying to do there. You take the knots out, spin the rope, get everything done. Now you'll notice that no matter how much we pull, there's no tension on that rope anymore and it won't recoil. So you've got a little C-clip. You can take a little pair of C-clip pliers and just remove the little C-clip. Take that off. It's a little washer under there to keep it from wearing into the pulley. And then at this point, all you really need to do is go in and lift off the pulley. Once that pulley is off, if in fact you had broken a rope, it's not a big deal. You can basically just take this. You can take the, hopefully you're getting a good shot of that. You can see the rope goes right through the center of the pulley there. You can just basically rotate that pulley and spin the rope through, tie off your knot, and put a brand new rope in it. Same thing on the other end. You would basically do the same with your handle on the other side. So that would be replacing the rope. The more common reason you'll be in here is to probably check out that spring. If it's not coming back all the way and it's just leaving the rope hanging and dangling, the rope is just kind of limp there, what you would do is come back in. Is you've got a cassette in here. The cassette sits up inside this housing, and on the cassette itself, it's basically got 3 little notches on here, and I'll try and take a brand new cassette. This is a brand new cassette from the opposite side. You can see that on this cassette it has some little catches right on the opposite end, has those little catches. What you want to do is try and get your screwdriver up in there and kind of push that in so it works its way out of that plastic. So in this case, what we would do is just stick our screwdriver in there and kind of pry it up, and it comes right up and out of there. Got to be just a little bit careful so you don't send that spring flying everywhere, but if you're careful, it'll usually come out in one piece like that. Then we get the spring out, and now we're ready to do an inspection of the spring and take a look at that little plastic cassette and see what's going on there. This is an old one. If you had a new one, this is the way it comes from the service pack. When you buy a service pack from us, you'll get the spring already inserted in the cassette. If you have an old one, it's not a big deal to pull the spring out there, clean it all up, oil it, clean the plastic piece, put it all back together, and then you're good to go. So one of the reasons these go bad, and this is a very important point, one of the reasons these go bad is because they get over tightened. And I mentioned earlier when we were talking about pulling the recoil out, why you don't want to go to the point of over tightening one of these or over rotating it. So this is basically the pulley the rope would go through. This is a brand new cassette. They're nice and clean, so hopefully you get a good view of what's going on. But you can see that the pulley has two sides to it. The two little pegs go to the outside. The section of the pulley that has the open pieces, what those open pieces do is they catch this torsion spring in here. So as you rotate it, that little opening catches the knuckle in the spring, and then as you're pulling this rope, what's happening is that you're tightening up that spring. And I am going to try and do this without popping that spring out of there. Hopefully I can. And you can still kind of get a look of what's going on here. But you'll see that once this is completely tight, that the pulley just won't turn anymore. I can't turn it anymore. But you'll see that that spring is completely coiled. If I continue to pull that and pull on that rope and allow it, you can see that that top hook is actually starting to expand. And if I pulled hard enough, I could literally change the shape of that hook and it'd wreck this whole cassette assembly. This spring would be worthless. So just to kind of explain what's going on, I'm going to let go of this pulley on the back so you can see what's going on. But as I let go of the pulley, at this point the rope would be coming back in. As the rope is coming back in, the tension on the spring is being released. Okay? And it'll get so loose that eventually you can just pull the pulley out of it. So that's what's going on there. The whole reason I make that point is that there's a limited number of turns you can put in this assembly to keep it from ever having that problem. And we have found that the maximum number of turns that you can put in this assembly is 8. If you put more than that, as I showed you earlier, you'll get this spring so wound up that you'll rip that top section right off the plastic pin. Okay, so all you have to do to put this back in place is you kind of line it up. You line up that half moon shape on the cassette with the half moon cut out there, and you can use, once you get things lined up, kind of get things lined up there, and then you just take your thumbs as you're getting it lined up and then just push it down into place and you are good to go. That's the key. Always go first time. Let's see, there we go. It is a matter of kind of lining things up. Can't do it up that high.
Okay.
Now, sometimes you just got to set it down, and if it won't drop right in, sometimes you just kind of take it and push it in just ever so slightly, then you can take your two thumbs and it just snaps right back into place. Hopefully you can see that. Sometimes it's fast, sometimes it's not. The dirtier it is, the more difficulty you're going to have. But it'll come out there. You don't have to beat it with a hammer. It'll come out. It's not that big a deal. It's definitely made to be finessed. It's not made to be beaten. Then all you do to line up that little knuckle, there's a small knuckle in there. You got to line up that little knuckle into those two little ports. All you do to make that happen, spin it till it drops, and you'll see you spin it and it'll actually drop into place. Then to tighten it up, you just lock it back in here. But before we do that, we're going to take and we're going to put this little washer back on here, and we're going to put that little C-clip back in there. You can do it without this step, but there is a good chance that when you do and you go to tighten this up, that whole assembly will come flying off and you'll spend 30 minutes trying to get that spring back in there. Maybe not 30, but you'll spend more time than you want to getting that spring back in there. So you can see right now, has no tension on it. We can feel that knuckle is kind of in place. You'll feel it when you put it back. It's almost in place. So what you do is you line the rope up. And remember we said no more than 8 turns. So what we're going to do, we start here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So now we got it lined up. We're just trying to get all that stuff out, get the rope nice and clean, and now when we release this pulley, everything should just wind right back up. Okay, so now it's good to go, it's all set up.